Have you ever felt like you're quietly walking away from your old self? Without even trying? It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just a subtle, almost invisible shift. And one day you look back and realize, you're not who you were. Something deep inside has changed, and it wasn't forced. You're not broken. You're awakening, and you're not alone on this journey. There's a quiet revolution happening inside you. Not because the world demanded it, but because your soul whispered, it's time. Time to come home to who you really are. Have you noticed you're not reacting the same way you used to? That certain habits are just fading away? Like a storm that's finally passed, leaving behind a calm you didn't even know you were capable of. That's not weakness. That's transformation. Today, let's explore the 6 things you naturally stop doing after a spiritual awakening. Not because someone told you to, but because your soul no longer needs them. They simply fall away, like autumn leaves, making space for something real, something still, something true. Section 1. You stop trying to please everyone. There was a time you would say yes before your heart even had a chance to speak. Not because it felt right, but because saying no felt like rejection. And you were tired of being misunderstood. You showed up for everyone but yourself. Replied to messages while your soul whispered for silence. Smiled through exhaustion, because somewhere deep down you thought love had to be earned by sacrifice. But something softened. Not in weakness, but in wisdom. You began to feel how unnatural it was to betray yourself just to make others comfortable. You didn't become cold. You became clear. And in that clarity, something remarkable happened. You stopped saying yes when your soul meant no. Minh used to be that person. She would answer every favor, every late-night request, every cry for help. Even when she was barely holding herself together. One morning, she just paused. Her phone buzzed, but instead of rushing, she looked out the window and said no, not with anger, but with peace. And nothing collapsed. The world kept spinning, but inside her, a new one began. That small no wasn't a rebellion. It was a homecoming. She realized not everyone needs a yes. Not every voice deserves an answer. Not every expectation needs her energy. Peace begins when expectation ends. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh said. And those words, they are not just truth. They are medicine. So ask yourself gently, when you abandon your truth just to make others happy, who are you really serving? And what part of you is being left behind? Section 2. You stop fearing silence. There was a time when silence felt unbearable, like an empty room you didn't know how to sit in. A space where all your thoughts grew loud and heavy, echoing off the walls of your mind. So you filled it, endlessly, with sound. Podcasts on your commute, music while you cooked, social media scrolling until your eyes blurred, TV humming in the background just to keep your mind from falling quiet. Noise became your armor. It shielded you from hearing the questions your soul was quietly asking. Questions like, are you truly happy? Or, who are you when no one's watching? But something shifted. Slowly, you stopped craving sound like a drug. The stillness that once felt so loud started to feel like home. You realized silence was never the enemy. It was the invitation. Minh once began every morning in a blur of noise. Alarms, messages, feeds, and headlines. But these days, her mornings look different. There's no rush. No flood of stimulation, just 5 minutes, a cup of warm tea, and stillness. In that quiet space, she meets herself. Not her to-do list, not the noise of the world, just herself. Present, awake, enough. Silence has become her sanctuary, a space not of emptiness, but fullness. Not absence, but presence. The Buddhists say, when the mind is still, the universe surrenders its wisdom. And it's true, because in silence, you begin to hear things that were always whispering beneath the noise. You begin to remember what matters, what's real, and most importantly, what's yours. So I ask you, can you give yourself the gift of silence? Just for 3 minutes? No distractions, no checking, No reaching for something outside of you. Just being. Just listening. Section 3. You stopped judging yourself and others. There was a voice that followed you everywhere. Quiet, but sharp. It whispered in the back of your mind when you looked in the mirror. It echoed when you made a mistake. It murmured again and again. Not enough. Not smart enough. Not kind enough. Not successful enough. You believed that voice because it sounded so much like your own. You didn't realize. It wasn't truth. It was just an echo of pain you picked up along the way. And because you judged yourself so harshly, you judged others too. It was automatic. Someone dressed a certain way, spoke a certain way, and the labels came quickly. But something in you changed. Maybe slowly, maybe all at once. That harsh voice started to quiet down. And in its place, a new one emerged. One that said, maybe I'm doing my best. With that softness toward yourself came softness toward others. You began to pause. Instead of reacting, you wondered, what pain are they carrying? The more you saw your own wounds with gentle eyes, the more you realized, everyone's carrying something unseen. Everyone's fighting a battle they rarely speak of. Judgment started to feel heavy, out of place, like a coat you no longer wanted to wear. You didn't need it anymore. And in that moment, love became your new instinct. Not the sugary surface kind, but the kind of love that listens without fixing, that sees without labeling. The Buddha once said, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. And when you stop judging, truly stop, you realize how much hate was hiding in disguise. So I ask you, what would happen if just for one day you replaced judgment with curiosity? When you saw someone you didn't understand, instead of labeling, you asked, what's their story? What would your world feel like if every interaction became a chance to understand rather than categorize? How much softer could your heart become? How much more human would we all feel? Section 4. You stopped needing to control your entire life plan. There was a time when you lived by the clock, ruled by calendars, imprisoned by checklists. Every hour had to mean something. Every year needed a title. This is the year I accomplish X, become Y, fix Z. You believed that control was safety, that if you could just plan every step, you could outrun uncertainty, outrun pain, outrun failure. And so you clung to timelines, to 5-year plans, to visions of what life should look like by 25, 30, 40. But the tighter you gripped, the more life slipped through your fingers. The more anxious you became when life had the audacity to be unpredictable. Then something shifted, not because you gave up, but because you grew tired. You realized that control is not the same as peace. You began to feel the wisdom of surrender, not as weakness, but as deep trust. And so, instead of demanding that the future obey your plans, you started whispering to it, I trust you. You stopped panicking when things didn't go according to plan. You stopped spiraling when people changed, when doors closed, when timelines shifted. You took a breath. You didn't react. You realigned. You began to trust the unfolding, not because it always made sense, but because it always brought you closer to who you really are. There's a kind of freedom that arises when you no longer force the river of your life into a straight line. You understood what the old wisdom meant when it said, the river doesn't resist its path, it just flows. And in that flow, you didn't lose direction. You found rhythm. You moved with life, not against it. So today, try this. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply. Feel your chest rise. And as you exhale, say softly within yourself, I surrender control. Again, inhale, exhale. Let go of the need to know what's next. Let go of the need to be certain. Trust that not knowing is not a problem. It's a doorway. The most beautiful parts of your life were never planned. They arrived like blessings disguised as detours. Section 5. You stopped needing validation from others. There was a time when you couldn't move through a day without wondering, will they see this? Will they like this? Will they approve of who I am? Every achievement became a performance. Every moment of joy needed to be captured, filtered, posted. Not to remember it, but to prove it mattered. You measured your words like a performer in front of a silent crowd, hoping for applause. You lived in the echo of approval, mistaking noise for nourishment. And yet, deep down you felt empty, because validation is addictive. It lifts you briefly, but drops you the moment it fades. One day you did something small, something gentle, just for you, and you didn't tell anyone. And for the first time that felt enough. Min once wrote a poem, and instead of posting it, she tucked it into her journal. No hashtags, no comments, just a love letter to herself. That moment mattered not because anyone saw it, but because she did. She witnessed her own beauty, and that was sacred. Slowly, the applause became less important. The silence after creation became more meaningful than the noise that follows it. You stopped needing permission to feel proud of yourself. You stopped outsourcing your worth to other people's reactions. You realized something that changed you, that your worth was never something others could give or take away. It has always been yours. You are enough. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to perform. You don't need to be loud to be real. Not because of what you do, but because you are. So let me ask you gently, when was the last time you did something beautiful and told no one? Section 6. You stopped resisting your emotions. There was a time when you thought being strong meant being silent. When you held back your tears like they were shameful, and wore smiles like armor even when your heart was breaking inside. You laughed at the right moments, nodded when you were supposed to, and convinced the world, maybe even yourself, that everything was fine. But inside, there was a quiet ache, the weight of unfelt grief, unshed tears, unspoken fears. A river dammed by your own belief that emotions made you weak. One morning, it changed. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. Min sat by the window and watched the sun rise. And as the golden light spilled over the earth, her tears came too. She didn't fight it. She didn't apologize for it. She just cried. Not because something was wrong, but because something inside her was finally being seen. And in that simple moment, she discovered something sacred. Emotions aren't enemies to battle. They are messengers, visitors, clouds passing through the sky of our awareness. They come, they speak, they go. And the more we try to trap them or hide them, the more they demand to be felt. But if we just let them pass, they soften, and so do we. You begin to learn that letting yourself feel isn't losing control. It's finding truth. It's meeting yourself exactly where you are, without needing to fix, justify, or escape. The sadness, the fear, the anger, the joy, they are all valid. They are all worthy of your presence. You are not broken for feeling deeply. You are alive. You are open. You are human. So you stop resisting. You breathe. You welcome it all. The storm and the sunshine, the ache and the laughter. You let it flow like rain falling on fertile soil. You cry when you need to. You laugh when it comes. And sometimes, strangely, both happen at once. And that's okay. That's beautiful. The Buddhist masters remind us, your emotions are not who you are. They are weather. You are the sky. You hold space for it all. So let me ask you, softly, what emotion are you holding back that just wants to be felt? What would happen if, for once, you didn't resist it? What we have explored today are not rigid rules to follow or goals to chase. These are the gentle layers of old skin you begin to shed, one by one, without force or struggle, like petals slowly opening to reveal a quiet, radiant center hidden beneath. This transformation doesn't feel like becoming someone new or different. Instead, it is a sacred return, a homecoming to the essence of who you have always been, waiting patiently beneath the dust and noise of life. You do not have to abandon your past or erase your history. For every step you take gently back toward your true self is a step carried with love, respect, and understanding for the person you have been and the journey you have walked. Imagine this. Life does not ask you to change who you are, but simply to remember, to awaken to your own truth, and to walk that path with kindness and patience, like a child stepping barefoot onto familiar earth after a long journey away. If these words have touched your heart, if you feel the quiet stirrings of awakening within, I invite you to share this moment. Write in the comments, "I have awakened," and join others walking this path of gentle unfolding and deep presence. And as we continue, together, on this journey of returning home to ourselves, please subscribe and turn on the bell so we can keep meeting here in this space of calm, reflection, and growth, step by step, breath by breath.